Hi guys, it's Michael and we are back with another video for surviving long-term care. And today's topic, we are going to talk about staffing shortages in long-term care. So, forgive me if I'm turning my head and I'm grabbing papers and stuff because I made myself some notes because I want to make sure we touch on some hot topics, right? As far as staffing shortages. So, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my phone because my notes are in my phone. I'm trying to get more tech savvy using this stuff. So, uh, really wanted to touch on this because there's so much media information out there and so much being reported about nursing home crisis and the shortages and the things like that. And we know well, I've been a nurse for 20 years, and prior to being a nurse, I was a CNA. And I remember when I was a CNA, so we're talking about like 20 plus years ago. Um, I don't remember it ever being like a shortage of nurses, aides. Like it was, it could be 7 to 10 of us on the unit. Like our caseload would be anywhere from 5 to 8. Like we got 8 people, we was tight. If you got 10, you was just like the rest of the day because you like, right, why they at, right? Um, Moving forward to now, 2024, you might have 2 aides on a unit with 60 patients, right? Um, I was a unit manager for a little bit, and I used to just, my hats was off to them because I'm like, I don't know if I could walk into the door knowing that I potentially may have 30 residents to myself. So, it does happen, and, you know, we talk about the, the nursing homes are talked about, should I say, in the media, and that they're always in a negative light. But I think we got to start looking at some of the things that go on within these facilities that impact the patients, right? That impact everything that we do. And staffing shortage is huge, 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 huge. Not only for nurses, but especially for CNAs. Those are the primary caregivers. Like we depend on them. The patients depend on them. Yes, we need nurses. We do. We need to get the medication out, but what good is the medication if the person is not up, they're not dressed, they're not fed, their ADLs are not taken care of, like they're being right, if they're just laying in bed and just like completely out of it, like kind of where do we fit in that? Like we can only do so much, right? So we need our CNAs and we value our CNAs. But we do have to correct our CNAs sometimes too, and we'll get into that at a later date, as well as nursing as well. But today's topic is, yeah, y'all know I go off on these tangents, but stick with me. Today's topic is we're talking about staffing shortages in long-term care. Staffing shortages have worsened. Worsened. I think that's the word. Yes, worsened. Post COVID. And I think for a plethora of reasons. One huge reason I could think about is that the pandemic terrified people, right? You had people who are nurses and nurses aides and medical providers and things like that who were in the field for multiple years. And none of us have survived a pandemic, right? This was totally new for all of us. And I think it terrified people because people were like, for lack of a better word, they were just dying. They were dying, just dropping, right? And then when the mandate came for the vaccinations, a lot of people were like, you know what, you're not forcing me to take this vaccination. A lot of people didn't believe in it, and a lot of people didn't do it. And I lost, a lot of aides, a lot of nurses, everybody was impacted with it because people were just not going to be forced by the government to do something medically that they didn't agree with, right? For whatever reason they didn't agree with it. They didn't agree with the vaccine. Okay, fine. So we lost a lot of people that way. Now here we are post COVID. Oh, and also before we talk about post COVID, during the COVID too, we know that pay rates for almost everybody went through the roof, especially the medical field. CNAs, HHAs, nurses, RNs, LPNs, nurse practitioners, doctors, uh, physical therapists, occupational therapists, respiratory therapists, paramedics. Those rates are rates pay. And when I say rates, I mean pay rates for those who are not, in the medical field don't understand when I say rates. Those wages, those rates that we saw, we will probably never ever see them again, right? They were astronomical. They were insane. People were literally clearing 40, 50K a month, right? I myself, and this was towards within that last maybe 12 months of COVID, that last 6 to 12 months that they really considered COVID a crisis, right? Because they were crisis rates, that's what they called them. And they paid for you to travel to wherever you had to go. You got these crazy high wages, pay rates, these crisis rates because you were knee deep in the pandemic. And so it pulled people away from their community hospitals and their community nursing homes and, the home health care within, your immediate area. It pulled those people to different areas because they went for that money, right? And so, like I said, I myself, here towards the last year, like I said, the last 12 to 6 months or so of COVID, a friend of mine hooked me up with a company and I went out to California. Now, mind you, I was sitting at the time as a director of nursing over a facility and I don't think I had been there 6 months. However, the rate they were going to give me, I could not clear that rate working in that seat in that facility in 30 days. And that was going to be a week. Okay? And I was making a decent penny. I was making some nice money. 1 week's worth of pay. I went to my administrator on Monday and said, I'm leaving. He said, when? I said, Friday. I couldn't pass it up. I would never see that again. Right? It was crazy. It was crazy. Not only did this company have my flight and everything ready for me by that Sunday or that Monday I flew out, the next week, they paid for the flight there. They paid for the flight back. They paid for my hotel stay. I had a full suite, right? Didn't come out of pocket. They paid me daily wages. I got daily pay as I was sitting waiting for an assignment. And they were flying people in every day. We locked down a hotel. We weren't in shared rooms. We had suites. Do you hear me? So every day for about a good week and a half, I was just getting my time slip signed and just waiting for it to be placed. And then once my placement came up and I found a facility, then they shifted me on. I had to find my own hotel accommodations closer to where the site was that I chose. But even then, I was given a hotel stipend to pay for that. So minus $200 a week, $150, $200 a week out of my pay for my crisis pay for working at the hospital was going towards my hotel stay. They covered almost over $1,000 really in hotel fees. So I'm saying all that to say, how do you turn that down when people were paying off houses, they were purchasing new houses, they were paying off cars, student loans, savings, people retired. They made so much money when they were out there. Some people were out there during the whole pandemic. They were able to retire themselves. They never came back into the field. They never came back, right? We can't be mad at them. We can't be mad at them, but it left us at such a deficit, right? So now that you have teachers who have left, nurse practitioners who have left, because I was out there with a lot of nurse practitioners too. So now you have providers that were short. Like it's crazy right now. And these are the things that I don't hear a lot of the media covering when they cover the lawsuits and the this and the that and da. Yes, we know nursing homes have their issues. There's not a business that doesn't have their issue. There's not a business that does not have their issues. We do have our issues, but we got to talk about where these issues arose. Not to say that we were perfect, but we were way better prior to the pandemic, and we all know that post-pandemic we are struggling. They're trying to get creative ways to get more people to go into nursing. They're trying to get creative ways to get more people to go into healthcare period, as far as CNAs and home care is really struggling right now. I was just told by someone that, even some of the group homes for the people with developmental disabilities and things like that have medical issues, they're starting to close those down because they don't have nurses to cover those, which is so sad, because now you have that special group of dynamics, that special group of people who are now being placed in facilities that originally were made for elderly people, right? Excuse me. It's my coffee. It's my midday coffee, y'all. So we're going to talk and have some midday coffee, y'all. It's so good, too. I love coffee. So now we have all of this going on. So there's just so much going on, which is why I'm so dedicated to this channel. I do have to get more diligent with posting videos and getting on here and being more present. I'm still working out this imposter syndrome thing with being on video in front of everybody, but I'm so passionate about it. And if you know me and you hear me talking about this, you be like, oh yeah, she like that, because she don't talk like that. Like, I don't get into it. Like, I fall back. I'm the one that's always watching, looking at people like... So I'm really into this. So just to give you a little backstory for those of you who are not in the medical field, but who are following me and trying to, get an understanding as far as why long-term care facilities stay in the newspaper, why things like this are always going on. Today we're going to talk about staffing. So here we are post-COVID. We're struggling. There's maybe 2 nurses per unit. Most units usually house anywhere from 40 to 50 patients. However, the last few facilities I've been in, they've been 50 to 60. The one facility that I work per diem now is 60 beds per unit, except for the rehab, and I think the rehab is 40 beds, right? In rehab, even prior to COVID, we always staffed rehab. Like, people long-term upstairs, y'all knew it, and I say upstairs because most of your rehabs are on your level, your first level. They're going to pull from long-term to put those people in rehab, because those people in rehab, that's our coming and our going. That's, where a lot of our insurance reimbursements and those things come from. And those people, I don't want to say are needy, but they do request a lot more, because these are people who had accidents at home, went to the hospital, and now they're here for rehab. So they're used to the hustle and bustle. They were just up driving themselves. They were just taking care of themselves. And all of a sudden they're kind of like in the bed, and they can't move until you say move, or they can't go to the bathroom until you come and get them. So they're a little bit more demanding. And I think that's fair to say. And they don't have as much patience. They don't have as much patience. I want it. Some of them you have to remind them and say, hey, I'll be right with you. Because sometimes they think they're the only one. And I wish I had one aide for every single patient. It would be great. We just don't have it. We can't do it. So, we have a time frame that the state says, hey, you got this amount of time before you got to go get this call. But that's another story. That's another topic for a whole nother day, right? So we're struggling, sometimes even on rehab. We might have 2 aides for 40 rehabbers. It's insane. And, yes, nurses, we can jump in there and we can help out and we can toilet and we can do those things too. But we have to remember our primary focus is to make sure they're medicated, make sure their treatments are done. If they have any acute issues, we have to address those acute issues. The doctor sent over the prescriptions, or if they're ill, those type of things. So it's not saying that we can't do what the CNAs do. It just may not be that we can always do that, right? Because we still have what we need to be, we still have our job to do as well. So struggling with staffing. But with that being said, I want to get into a couple of the top 10 reasons I think, are super important and high on the list as far as why we're short staffed. So one of the issues, and we spoke about a little bit during the pandemic, is the low wages, right? CNAs don't make a lot of money. Depending on what facility you're in, nurses, we don't make a lot of money. Some people think like, oh, they're complaining, they make this, they make that, and nurses always doing this and they always doing that, and the aides is traveling, and you see people on social media, and this is my paycheck, I did this and I did that. See how many hours they put in for those checks though, right? So as an aide, I want to say the highest check I had as a CNA may have been maybe 15, 16, 20 years ago. Maybe even 18. It might have been 18 as an aide, but that was a lot of hours. I'm talking about a double every day I worked and doubles on the weekend. That's a lot of time away from your family to make that type of money, right? Is it possible to make it? Absolutely. You will put the work in. Your body will tell you about it. So wages is definitely a huge factor, and especially now, cost of living, everything has gone up. However, not all the wages have moved. I don't know what all the states are. I should have did a little bit more research so I can give you kind of an idea what the difference is in various states. But I know, I believe in New York State, we're maybe 19, maybe minimum, maybe. But I'm thinking there's some 16s, 17s in there too. And if you're in home health, you don't make what a certified nursing aide makes. You don't make that at all. So you have the one patient, you're giving that one-on-one care, but everybody bills is pretty much the same, right? We all still got to pay lights. We all still got to pay gas. We all still got to, rent, mortgages, whatever the case may be. So wages is definitely an issue, and I know that they're really working and are trying really, really hard to compensate CNAs and nurses and everything for the work that they do. Can you compensate somebody enough for that type of work? I don't know, but we've definitely got to do better. And I think if we can get better with the wages, I think that we'll see people that will not be so hesitant when it comes to the health field to join it into the health field, and we can use all the assistance that we can. So a solution for that would be, for me, like I just said, increase the wages. Let's become competitive with other healthcare sectors, CNAs in long-term care versus the hospital aides. There's a pay difference there. Their insurance is different. Some of the small facilities can't carry those big name insurances that can cover a lot more things with those bigger companies for you medically than we can in these small facilities. And so that becomes a factor too as well. So we definitely want to get competitive with the wages, and we want to make sure that we're paying people for the services that they're providing, right? Because long-term care is tough. Long-term care is definitely tough. Another one is burnout and fatigue. Talked about that a little bit too during the COVID thing. Is we, and when I say we, I just say we nurses, we aides, we people in the medical field, and no disrespect to the first responders, the EMTs, the policemen, the firemen, things like that. I can only speak on what I know when I'm talking about nursing. But we burnout, major burnout. If you had COVID, you were sick, God forbid you didn't pass, you were out of work for at least 2 weeks, sometimes even longer. Some people were never able to return back to work because it just affected them so bad, physically, mentally, because patients were dying. Multiple patients a day. We were losing multiple patients a day sometimes. So it became very difficult to staff these facilities during the COVID pandemic. And so and then with all the gear we had to wear and the stress, and if you were out and you had to cover the extra shifts, and people who were there, they just stayed, and some people just anchored in place, and it was just major wear and tear on you physically, emotionally, financially, right? People were terrified. They didn't know what to do. People were leaving their homes and trying to get hotels so they bring stuff home to their children. It was just really tough. So you have that burnout, you have that fatigue. It's taxing on you, it's stressful on you, and not everybody can deal with that. So you know some facilities put things in place, and if I'm looking down, I'm reading my notes on my phone, guys. So things were put in place, and policies were put in place so that we could try to alleviate some of the stress, some of the physical and the mental stress. EAP programs, employee assistance programs, as far as we can get you some counseling, some things like that was put in place. We put things in place to help people out financially, because some people just couldn't even return back to work, right? It was so bad mentally and physically on them. Some people lost their health. Some people lost their daycare providers. The person that took care of their children while they worked, they passed, and so now what do I do with my children? Who's going to take care of my kids, right? So just a whole plethora of things. So it's huge now too, and it's always been, but even more so now. We encourage people to try and find a work-life balance. Don't spend every single day at work doing doubles. We know we have bills to pay, we have things to do, but you have to take that me time. You have to take the time to care for you, spend that time with your loved ones, because you just never know when it's going to be the last time, right? Next one was limited career advancement opportunities. That, I don't think it is, and it isn't. I don't think, for me, it's huge. It's some concern. People feel like they can't advance in these facilities, and that's just absolutely not the case. And I'm living proof of that, right? I started out as a CNA. I've sat as DON for multiple buildings. You can advance in your buildings. Now you have to go to school. There's some things that you have to do depending on what part of the facility, what department you want to move in. But we advance throughout the buildings all the time. People go from dietary to CNA, from CNA to LPN, from LPN to RN, from CNA to physical therapist, to CNA to social work, from nursing to social work. So there's different various ways that you can have movement within your facility, or you may not be able to move in your facility. You may have to step outside of your facility in order to get that advancement. So I think that's a misconception that some people have. It's like, if I'm an A, I'm just going to be stuck at A, and I ain't never going to be able to do nothing else. And that's just absolutely not true. Right. And if you have like unions and things like that, there's a lot of programs in there that give people the incentive to further your education. And those programs are not just limited to CNAs. If the nurses, if the LPN wants to go back to become an RN, there's an incentive, right? If the RN wants to go on to get her bachelor's or NP school or whatever that may be, as long as they're doing something inside the medical field, that there's a lot of programs where they'll pay for that, because companies really do want to retain you. They pour a lot of money into you. It costs a lot of money to train you, to keep you in a facility, to pay for your insurance and things like that. So the goal is, if we can help you grow in your career, or as you move up and want to do different things, it's cheaper for us to offer you that type of incentive to retain you, because you already know the company, you know the policies, you know what we're looking for. You become an asset to us, right? And we want to keep that. Another one is poor working conditions. Some of these facilities are pretty old. That's just facts. They've been built for, I'm 51. Some of them have been built longer than 51 years. So not all of them have been updated. All of them are not privately owned, right? Some of these facilities were owned by the state. State's not coming through there every 5-6 years and putting paint on the walls and redoing the furniture and things like that. It's just not happening. So a lot of stuff is outdated. We got outdated equipment. And when I say outdated, it's just older models. Everything has to be checked by maintenance. Everything is in working order. It just may not be the latest model, right? We don't got the 2024. We might have the 2010, 2015. I think we've just about graduated with all the crank beds. Oh my gosh, we used to have to crank the beds up to set people up, and crank the beds up to put their heads up, and then crank the beds up to get the whole bed to go up and down. I haven't seen any of those in years, but and that, let's say some maybe within the last 5 years, which means there was still some of those beds hanging around, y'all. We in 2000. Why do we have crank beds? We had some. So some of the equipment in some of these facilities can be outdated. The rooms are built odd and strange, and back in the 70s that might have been the bomb design, and today you just looking like, why everybody on top of everybody? Let's just open this room up a little bit. Why is this over here? But we're limited to what we can do and how we can change things without just tearing the building down and constructing a whole new one. So we have to work with what we have. And sometimes people are just like, oh no, I can't work in here. I can't take the aesthetics. I'm one of them. I'll be like, what are we doing with the aesthetics in here? Because this is crazy, right? And so, luckily in this area, we've been fortunate enough to have some buyers that came in and were like, okay, we got to fix this. We got to do something with this. And they have done that. And so, that is great not only for staff, but it's phenomenal for patients, right? The nice colors, the things are not drab and just dark and gloomy. So I think I've seen some really beautiful facilities, but like I said, there still are some outdated facilities out there. Other thing I have is lack of training and professional development. We've got to teach. Every facility used to be an educator in there, and you were constantly being in service and pulled off the unit and had in-service meetings and quick 15-minute huddles and things like that. You were constantly being taught because nursing is constantly changing. There's always something being updated, and by us losing so many people in the medical field, there's just some of these positions we have not been able to fill. So you have people wearing multiple hats, and when you have people doing multiple jobs, you get a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit over here. And so proficiency across the board, I think, declines because people are wearing too many hats and they're stressed, right? They're just stressed across the board because our focus is the patients, but then we still got to do this, and then we got to do that, and we got to do this, and we still got to have meetings and a state survey and things like that. So I think we definitely have to get back into educating people. I'm a firm believer in, if we educate you when you understand why we have to do what we have to do, it holds you a little bit more accountable, which is a reason why people used to be ducking in services. Because if I can't teach you and you don't sign your name on a paper, I really can't hold that to you. But I say that jokingly, but we definitely want to educate, and I'm huge on it. Of course, unless it's something that I cannot discuss or something that I can't speak on at that time, with the CNAs or the nurses or whatever the case may be, I'm always an open book. Come on in here and let me show you how this goes. Because then when you get upstairs and I come up here and I'm asking you, why is there 20 bottles of open soap in her room? Because nobody took the time to go in the room and make sure that the soap and stuff was in the basin where it's supposed to be. And you see how that plays in the budget and how that plays and affects how much staff you can get. Then you start to be like, okay, dag, y'all, go, let's, we ain't got to go through a case of soap a day. We don't, and so things like that, those are the things that, staff takes, I don't want to say take advantage of, but they don't take into consideration when they just go in those storerooms and they're just pulling stuff, and gloves is all over. But a box of gloves can be anywhere from $5 to $8 a box of gloves, right? Especially now, stuff is in such high demand post-COVID. So it adds up, yes, we have to have those things, but we have to be conscious and we have to be aware about it. What do you do when your kids are in the house and they come home from school and they stay in the refrigerator with the door wide open, just standing? Okay, I'm sorry, we had to pick this back up. My hand hit the hit my mouth. I was saying, when our kids come home and they're hanging on the refrigerator door and the refrigerator is open and the cold air is coming on and the lights going on, it's like, close the door. Like, what are you doing with my lights? I'm paying for that, right? Same thing, you wouldn't have your kids pull out 10 rolls of toilet paper and put them in the bathroom, or pull out 3 bars of soap and use a different bar of soap every single day or anything like that. It's wasteful for you, for your funds, right? And the same thing with the facility. We have a budget that we have to stay in, right? So we have to be careful with that and make sure that we're training people and we give them the understanding and give them the knowledge that they need to do their job, and that we support them, right? And when they make a mistake, that we don't just come down on them like a ton of bricks, that we take the time to speak to them, find out what was their thought process. Why did you think that should work like that? Well, and then explain to them, well, no, this is why we do it this way. Okay. Coffee break, y'all. I tried the new creamer. Oh, it's amazing. Reputation of the facility. This is huge. And this is one that definitely triggered for me, because I ran from the facility that I worked at the first time for my first DON job. Like, I was like, they got the worst of the worst of the worst reputation. I kept, like, I'm not going there. It's no way possible I'm going to work. Because her reputation had preceded them. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. And so it took a little convincing, but I finally got there. And it was rough. It was rough. We put some time and some work in that building, and I think we did a really good job. We turned it around. But that wards people off. So you lose good staff before they even apply or get to the building, right? Just by word of mouth. So these companies, of course, and the administrators and things like that, they want to change that negative the negative perception of what their facility is. Is any facility perfect? They're just gonna do what they want to do. Is any facility perfect? No, right? All the facilities have, their issues. Everybody has their shortcoming, but we want to make sure that we can minimize whatever it is that we have going on that's keeping people away from us, not only as employees, but as potential patients, as potential customers to us too. So we definitely want to work on that. And so we try to do as many things as we can to spin that narrative. Like, we talk so much about how bad they are, but let's start talking about some of the good things that we do, the good work that these aides do here. They come in here and they show up every day, whether there's going to be 10 of them or 2 of them, whether they're going to have 6 people apiece or they're going to have 30 people apiece, they show up, right? And so those are some of the things that we want to make sure that the media puts out there. So I'm just want to be able to say, like, yes, for every good thing, for every bad thing that you may hear, there's like 100 good things that are going on here that nobody talks about. So we definitely want to spin a narrative on that. A big issue with some staff and some facilities is the inflexibility of scheduling, right? I'm a firm believer in we got to get creative. We got to get creative with staffing. We got to get creative with scheduling. So like I said, COVID, people lost a lot of family members. People lost people that they trusted with their children. Daycares closed down and never opened up. A lot of things closed because of COVID, had to, and they never recouped, they never recovered, they never opened back up, whatever the case may be, right? COVID made people take a look at their professional lives and put things into perspective, because we were losing people, right? So many people. And so a lot of people were like, nope, I'm staying at home. I'm going to find a job where I can work from home and I can be with my kids. The other thing is social media. People are becoming millionaires off of social media. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to leave my bed if I want to, right? So those are the type of things that we're dealing with. So for those people who are willing to come back out into the workforce and who are willing to come back in these facilities and work, I think we got to get creative with the staff, with the scheduling with them. And so if that means that we might have to take 2 people and split shifts, man, let's do whatever we got to do, because our primary focus is to make sure that we have enough staff to care for these patients properly. If a mom says, listen, I can't work Monday through Friday, I have my kids, I don't have anybody that can watch my children, get them off the bus, make sure their homework is done, but they go grandma, grandpa, dad, whatever the case may be on the weekends, but I can do doubles for you every weekend. I tend to say, okay, give me the every weekend, right? Because then I can say, okay, shoot, well, at least I know we got, this is going to all be covered. We got to get creative. Does that mean that you're going to come to me and I'm going to let you run out the building like you feel like it? Absolutely not. You got to have some concrete circumstances and reasons as to why, I need to do this. But I'm willing to do that because I need to get the staff in the building to make sure our patients are cared for. And I think that's just one of those ways that we can do that, is to be flexible. High turnover. High turnover rates. Why do we have high turnover rates? People get tired of working short. They get burnt out. They get stressed out. Physical, right? Starts to wear on their back. Starts to wear on them mentally, right? Pay, right? I got all that going on and I'm short-staffed. I got to worry about my kids. I can't pay all my bills. I'm physically burnt out. I'm mentally burnt out. And I don't have a wage that's livable, right? Higher paying jobs. A new company comes in and they're paying a couple dollars more. Can you really fault somebody for that? No, we might not like it. I hate to see some of my staff come to me and be like, Mike, I gotta go. And I'm like, no, you can't go. I need you. And they're like, but Mike, they don't pay me $5 more an hour. But like, I hate to see you go. I wish I could pay you that extra money. But I understand it and I respect it. I would never sit and tell nobody, don't go better yourself. Don't go advance yourself for my own personal or my own selfish needs. I would never do that. You do what you got to do for you and your family, because that should be your priority, right? And if that may be very impactful for them in a positive manner to make that extra money and bring that extra money in their household, that may cut a day out of them having to be out their home and away from their children and making that extra $5 an hour, right? So that's a plus for them. And I always want people, you got to do what works for you. And it's difficult, high turnover, because then we have to bring in new people. We have to hire new people. We have to bring them in. We have to try and train them. We have to bring them up to speed. A lot of time and a lot of money goes into this. It's very expensive to keep changing the guards and training them and bring people up to speed. So a solution for that would be, for me, is to focus on retention strategies and programs, right? What can we do to keep you here? And sometimes it is outside of money, because sometimes there's just no wiggle room. It's nothing I can do, especially if it's a union house. Hands is tied. But what other things can we do? Sometimes we'll offer bonuses for extra shifts, right? Some places used to give out Tops cards, $25 Tops cards, or Wegmans if you're from this area. When I was in Iron School and I was at LPN, the one company I worked for used to give out movie tickets for every additional shift that you picked up. At one point, I had so many movie tickets as I was going through Delta Sonic, our big car wash here where I'm at. Didn't have cash on me, so I would tip them with movie tickets. I know they used to love to see me coming. I didn't give them one ticket. I gave them 2 tickets. Here, take a friend. I don't have no cash on me, but take these movie tickets, because for every shift I picked up, I got 2 movie tickets. I just kept them in my glove compartment. So different things that we can do. Going to school, employee appreciation, do things for Nurses Week, do things to keep the morale up, because in reality, of course, who doesn't want more money? However, if I have a peace of mind at my job, if the majority of the time that I'm at work things are okay, I like the environment, I like the people I'm working with, some people will take the lesser pay for the peace of mind. So it's almost like, I can't give you this in cash, but I can give you this. I can work with you when you have when you're sick, or when your children are sick, or your time in attendance, or you need time off for your doctor's appointments and things like that. And so people will look at that and they'll value that, and they'll gauge, like, okay, run for the $5 and have the stricter rules and regulations and have no flexibility, or I take a little bit less pay, but they're flexible, they work with me, and whatever I need to do, they'll help me do. So just something for companies to think about. Number 10 for me is competition from other healthcare sectors. This is huge. And it piggybacks off we just talked about with the high turnover. New company comes in and boom, first thing, more money. We're brand new. We're trying to gain all the staff we can get. And all we're really doing is stealing from each other. It's like you being in the house and you say, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's all it is. We're cycling through the same nurses. We're cycling through the same aides. We're cycling through the same home health aides, medical providers, things like that, right? And then we find ourselves jumping every single time somebody offers us a few more dollars more. So I know there were some things that were being talked about as far as trying to find a way to stop, even with the traveling nurses, is to get the wages comparable to traveling, so that people are not leaving their states or leaving their communities to go and make that type of money. Like, how can we I can't pay you what they pay you, but what can I do as far as benefits, and how I can do your increments and raises and things like that to try and retain staff, because it can get a little cutthroat out there sometimes with staff, and those of us are in healthcare, we know usually if one go, you're gonna lose a few. When a person brings in 2, 3, 4, 5 people with them, usually if one of them go, you're gonna lose at least 2 or 3 of them, because then they travel in packs, right? They go together. That's my best friend. We came here together so we could work together. So now we gonna just start, we gonna lead together. And so sometimes the impact to your facility can be huge, because you're not just losing that one person, those 2 people. If 2 or 3 people go and each one of them brought somebody, you done lost 6 people. That's huge. That's huge. That's a huge impact in a facility, right? And so you want to try to stay within range, when it comes to wages and things like that with these new facilities. But, people leave and jump for new state-of-the-art facilities, right? Especially once they're building a brand new from the ground, and the Hoyers are from the ceilings, and the lifts work themselves, and all this other stuff. Yes, we all want to be there with modern technology. But again, it goes back to, you go jump for that modern technology, you're strictly into that. You're a business, right? You're a badge. You're not a person. They're not personable with you. They really are not going to sympathize with what you got on your personal life. When you stay with these smaller mom and pop facilities, you start to build more of a rapport. You start to build like this family-like environment. And so now you can get a little bit more flexibility with your schedule, with your life, right? And so I've had the experience of working for the big ones and for the smaller ones. And honestly, I can say for me, I like the smaller homes better. They don't have all the funding that the larger ones have, but they just work better for my life, because if I got something going on and I need to do something, I need to step away for a little bit or something like that, I'm covered. We become that tight-knit unit, that family. And that's just my personal experience. Maybe the big ones do the same thing. That just wasn't my experience. The smaller ones was my experience for me. So that is surviving long-term care today. That was our topic today, guys. Staffing shortages. Why do we have them, and what can we do to try to control some of it? So I am so glad that you stuck with me. I'm so glad that you stayed for this video. Please make sure that you like, that you comment, that you subscribe. Make sure that you follow us. You want to make sure you're notified when I drop a new video. I do apologize. I know they're a little bit inconsistent right now, but I got like a couple of things going on. I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm transitioning from one job to the next, and that's a few things going on. So be sure to stay tuned with us. My goal is to have a different topic for you every week, and on Fridays we're going to close the week out. We're going to recap, and then I'll have like a special little something for you at the end of it, to take you into your weekend. So again, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I definitely love talking about healthcare, because I truly do love healthcare. Any comments, any suggestions, any ideas, I'm just little old Michael and Aaron. I'm not the governor, Kamala, Donald Trump, none of that, but let's open up these conversations, let's open up these forums, because I think it helps people understand what we go through in long-term care and how we're impacted as well when things happen. That there's a lot of good. We do a lot of good in these facilities, and I don't think that's talked about enough. So happy Wednesday. Wednesday. Yes, it is. It's Wednesday already, y'all. I think half of October about gone. So happy Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to heat my coffee up, finish my coffee, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Remember, I love you, but God loves you more.